This week's Torah reading, Acharei Kedoshim, a double portion that almost always appears together. Acharei Kedoshim, those two labels, each one designating a portion that could stand on its own, but almost always are brought together by the calendar. It has become customary in the Jewish world to see those two portions and the words that describe them as not only nominal names for a portion, but actually descriptors of a process. I'll say more about that in 2 minutes. But the first portion, Acharei, its name comes from the phrase Acharei, after the death. Acharei, after, and mot, death. And it describes, of course, the death of Aaron's two elder children, Nadav and Avihu, in a traumatic and tragic event that took place on the 8th day in preparation to open up the newly created Mishkan. And that trauma hangs like a very thick cloud over the entire Torah. And no manner of commentary or parshanut actually eases it. The Torah will come back to it over and over again, and tomorrow Rabbi Kolaresis, I think, will be speaking to that in our services. The simplest advice comes in the very first verses. Aaron, who is, of course, traumatized by this event, is told to go back into the Holy of Holies, where the event actually took place. And the Torah says, "V'ayavo b'chol eis el hakodesh." The Torah gives advice, but really it's a warning in its original meaning. Make sure Aaron knows not to go at any moment that he wants to into the Holy of Holies. Rashi, the 11th century French commentator, says that he should know too, if he goes in at the wrong moment, oy vavoy, v'lo yamutu, that he doesn't die. For those of us who've done any work around trauma, those of us who have done any of the sacred shamanistic work that our teacher, Rabbi Firestone, Reb Tirza, will be giving this weekend, if you know anything about the work of trauma and releasing old wounds, it's really good advice to tell Aaron not to go in too frequently into that place. Yeah? V'ayavo b'chol eid el hakodesh is the first piece of wisdom from this weekend's Torah reading about what it is to revisit unhealthy or painful memories, unskillful places in the heart and in the body and in the mind. There's a rhythm to healing. There's an ebb and flow. There are times we feel strong enough to walk into the Holy of Holies, a place where something painful happened, and there are times when we can't and shouldn't. And to know that rhythm is profoundly important. So that's the first Torah. I wanted to speak about it for much longer, but you get it, right? Don't you appreciate a rabbi that just says, you get it, and just moves on, okay? You got it. And the second teaching has to do with that name that I began with. That every year, almost every year, we say, Acharei Kedoshim. It's the weekend of after death holiness. After death holiness. That's what it literally means. They're just the names, right, of the Parshiot. They have to do with randomly the most important words, but it literally means after death there's holiness. I went last night to sit on a panel that was discussing the new movie about Leonard Cohen's iconic Hallelujah. And I sat on a panel with the directors of that movie who analyzed Leonard Cohen's life and also looked at the remarkable power of that song, that anthem, that kind of world or global anthem as it's become. And with me on the stage was Alan Light, who is an author of the book, The Holy and the Broken Hallelujah. The Holy and the Broken Hallelujah. And Leonard, at the end of the movie, the very last words that he gave over, the directors were smart to give him the last word. He said, you look around you and you see a world that is impenetrable, that cannot be made sense of. You either raise your fist or you say hallelujah. I try to do both. You either raise your fist, Acharei mot. Who wouldn't want to raise a fist when we know at this very moment in our city and around the country there are children who should be protected in sacred institutions but are not? Who wouldn't want to raise a fist against injustice and inequity? Who wouldn't want to raise a fist against Jew hatred and gay hatred and trans hatred? Who wouldn't want to raise a fist against the ignorance that sometimes, like a virus, takes over the body and the heart and the mind of humanity? Who would not want to raise a fist? In fact, in Israel, they were raising fists, gathering together, saying it's not right. But they were also doing something else in Israel, and there's something else that is the second half of Acharei mot, Kedoshim, holiness, hallelujahs. Not only the broken one, but the whole one. Israelis, for the first time in decades, taking to the streets with the flag of Israel and saying democracy. Raising a fist and a flag at the same time. People who have undergone tremendous pain and trauma, who are able to hold that together with the hallelujah in life. You know, people in the shul know that I told a story about the son of a very beloved friend, member of our community, whose father tragically passed away. And I went to visit him. The son and the family were gathered around the footbed of Scott's bed. And the son, whom I bar mitzvahed, asked to speak with me privately. He knew that his father was in the last weeks of his life, and his son was about to go to college, and he said, you know, my dad's biggest dream was to take me to college, and I'm going to college next month, but my dad won't be around. Rabbi, how do you explain that? And I said to him, you know, I don't. You can raise a fist and protest. And I said, if I get to heaven, if I have that merit and I stand with God, I'll say, there's so much to rail about in this world, God. But then I said to him, you know, I think God will also have a word or two with me. And God might say, you know, that's all true. What you just raised your fist about is all there, but how do you explain watching Yehuda dance and the transcendence of dance and the beauty of poetry? And how will you explain all of the hallelujahs in this world? Go ahead, David. Give us your best shot. And I said to him, I definitely don't know. But we know there's Acharei mot. There's healing that needs to happen, and we can't do it at every moment, and there's justice that needs to be walked out. But each and every year we get this very gentle reminder that could become a daily mantra. Can I hold my fist and my heart, my fist closed and my heart wide open, as often as possible, like H2O. There's two parts. You know, I have my fist in protest and wanting so badly to make the world a better place and to bring about equity and to acknowledge all that is yet to be perfected. And then there's tonight. Then there's tonight. What do you do with that? It's a bracha, I think. To live with holiness and awe means that we recognize that life is not always easy. There are times when we will face hardship and pain, but it also means that we have faith and that we trust that everything that is beautiful is still beautiful, even as it stands in the mud that grows it. We strive to see the world through a lens of love and compassion, even when it seems impenetrable and senseless. That is the promise of Acharei mot Kedoshim. Take it slow. Hold your fist up and take a breath into your heart and let it open into what is already both the broken and the whole. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Please rise.